They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 208 of the Magic Guys. Guys. To my right today, we've got Nick K.
Welcome to the show, friends.
Down below, we've got Daddy Doug Khan.
What's up, y'all?
Oh, yeah. I'm Josh Norbito. Welcome to the show where we as professional magicians talk about our lives, the things that go with it, interview cool guests, and talk about today, David Copperfield's secret museum. Bloody
Dude,
hell.
I have forever and a day wanted to be a part of that tour. And I think I would cry if I saw some of the things that exist within that museum. I mean,
you would. I teared up several times.
Yeah, we definitely saw the ones that would have affected you. But you got to know where you came from to know where you're going. And I really enjoy doing these history pods where we talk about some of the figures in the history game. It is so special that there is a single place. Thank you, Mr. David Copperfield, for bringing that together and sharing it with us. But man, if there's ever an opportunity to scope that out, I would hop a flight. I would hop on the flight and just go without even thinking about it. So, yeah, I mean, should we jump straight into what it's like to be to the experience from the moment you arrive? Can we
give us the build up? First of all, how do you even get an invite to something that exclusive?
Yeah, first thing you do is manifest your destiny, right? So you make a dream like Nick's talking about and set your goals. And this was one of mine for sure. When I was coming to Las Vegas, I knew that this museum was something I wanted to do. And one of the top 3 or 4 things, really. So that's step one. I happen to have made pretty good buddies with Nick Defot, who is a wonderful comedy magician you might be familiar with. He's currently, or he just wrapped up headlining the Mad Apple show here in, I guess, the Cirque du Soleil production. And I got a message from him Friday. I might have been in the middle of the night. And he said, "Here's Kinner's number. You're going to the museum tomorrow." And so I messaged Chris Kinner, and now I have Chris Kinner's cell number. Let's go.
And we'll start the bidding at $900.
Let's all message him at the same time and say send nudes.
There's going to be so much flex on this podcast today from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Bloody I messaged Chris and he said, be here at 11:15 p.m., which is generally past my bedtime. But I took a nap and I got up at 10 p.m. and went to Korby's. Maybe I have a couple pictures.
Okay.
So Korby's is the storefront. They portray it as David's father's haberdashery, and the initials of this business have to do with his family. And this is where the tour starts, at Korby's. There's about 8 of us in the middle of the night, right outside the Mandalay Bay in a warehouse district. And Chris greets everyone, and we have a little, soiree there. I met one of your buddies from down under at that soiree, Jackson Aces.
That's right. Yeah, that was wild to see the photo on Facebook of you two meeting up and just Yeah,
Jackson had messaged me. He was doing something here, some kind of gig, I think with the rugby league, which was in town doing some stuff. And he needed help with the show, and I turned him on to a cool street performer on Fremont, and it was nice to give a young artist the opportunity to work with a bigger stage event like Jackson was doing. But yes, I knew he was in town. Didn't know he would be at Copperfield's. There are some other luminaries there. You might have heard of the Shocker, Greg Dowell. He does the wrestling character. He's been on Full Us. He performs in the late night magic show. As a wrestling fan, pretty happy to see his face.
Yeah, they were doing a show at the Orleans during Magic Live. It's I think run by Bizarro, if memory serves.
Correct. And I saw Bizarro last week, and this Saturday they're actually wrapping up that venue, and their last performance will be on the 8th. So I'm going to go see. They're renovating the showroom, so they might come back to that space. But for a while, it'll be the last one. And again, another show I was on my checklist: Bizarro and Friends at Late Night Magic, The Shocker. I was looking to meet him.
Mm-hmm.
And another
So you
person
meet
who's in that show is Holly England, often a female magician, and she was at the museum as well. So
Yeah, wow.
So
Whole
you guys are
lineup.
all gathered around what appears to be this haberdashery you mentioned, which is
Yeah.
a reflection of Copperfield's father's shop when they first immigrated to the U.S.
Wow, I don't know the exact history of that, but I can show you the store maybe here. I don't know if this will pick it up too.
Yeah.
So that's
There
the
it is.
Korby storefront. And the photo
Yeah,
opportunities
nice.
are limited here. I have one maybe of there I am with your buddy Jackson.
There he is.
If he's your buddy, you might hate him. I don't know.
No, he's a great guy.
I don't know your skit. And then if you peek in the window, there's some David Copperfield memorabilia. It's interesting. He said when he was starting out, they used to print bags and flyers and take them out to the New York City streets to promote the event. So yeah, in the parking lot, we're all out there. It's about 11:30, and then here comes David pulling up in a car, and Chris is like, "David's here. It's time to start."
I'm curious. Does he? I don't imagine this guy drives. I imagine he is like chaperoned everywhere.
Yeah, probably.
Like I don't imagine he's driven a car since he was like 20.
Chris Kenner has confirmed he doesn't have a driver's license. He doesn't drive, like 0%.
Chris has a license. Let me tell you about the speedster he was driving out of there. Are so fancy, I don't know what it was, but it went vroom, vroom and left very quickly at the end of the tour. He's got a nice ride.
I know that one of the jobs of being an assistant of David Copperfield is you have to drive him, from the theater to his home and things like that. Okay. And I believe people that would start working there didn't know that was a job of theirs. And they're like, I don't have a car that's like equipped to drive this kind of magic royalty around. And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. So you might be in Vegas and you just see a normal, I don't know what the brands are over there, a normal Corolla. And you look over it, you got bloody DC in the car. But okay, yeah. So he just rocks up, and I guess that's when you know, all right, it's go time.
Right. Yeah, and it's very much a scripted event from David's end, right? Like what happens here is David does very much theatrical pieces in this museum, presenting the different areas and magic effects and some of the history. Chris provides the tour guide experience, a little more Q&A, and Chris seems to know everything about everything. Like, he was explaining the poster process for putting these big sheets on the canvas and, how those end up in display and huge racks.
I can imagine he'd be deeply into that. If you've ever been to Chris's home, he's a very big movie buff and has amazing posters. He actually has one of Jaws that compasses the entire wall, and it's a very large home he has, you can imagine. And movie memorabilia is as far as the eye can see in some capacity. He's got an armory of a lot of guns and things that were used in previous movies. So trust Chris to have a great knowledge of those sort of experiences. There's also another magician. Is in Queensland, isn't he? Who collects posters. His name escapes me now. Dang it! But he has like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of like posters, and they're all like he's got like an entire floor of his house dedicated to it, and they're filed away. That's how many he has. But
you talk about like posters the size of your wall. He must have had 100 on a rack, and these are posters from the 1800s or 1900s. Beautiful, vibrant colors. These Thurston and Carter and Dante and just. Oh
yeah, yeah. It's really amazing how like not excited you are about posters until you're actually in front of them. You're in front of like a genuine panel that's been torn off a building, and it was there promoting the show like at the theater. Like
they were producing these with such elegance and beauty. 100 years ago, it's really amazing that they were able to do what they did in quantity, and that it survived time as well as it has, at least on display in David's museum. He does restore, I think, some of the items.
Yeah. It's a shame to almost think how many of these posters were just thrown to the trash and, never to be seen again, when they're actual, not only bits of magical history, but beautiful pieces of art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to guys like DC, who I termed it his passion project, which is very much what it is, a labor of love. There's no admission price to go see this. And he's been doing this for like 20 years now, him and Chris, taking people through this. I consider it a walk through time, to see all of our great masters come to life, and you see their props, and just to unselfishly share this collection, I think is a beautiful thing. It's like, wow.
Now, just to be clear, there's a question that was in the chat. This is an invite-only experience, correct?
Yeah, and I know people here that are kind of like, wow, you got to go. I've been here years and I've been wishing I can, and I'm like, sorry. But I think also this, though, I'm a little bit older than some of those guys. I've been around a while. I've done a few more things, so when you do a few more things, you might get the invite a little quicker.
So currently we've had a bit of a chat. We're in this shop. At what point does it go from this shop, and how does it transition into going into a museum?
Yeah. So in the shop, David explains about his family and yada yada. He gives everyone a business card from actually, like, it's his boy business card, so you get a little memorabilia at that point. And then he opens a secret door from this haberdashery room, and suddenly we're in essentially this museum tour starts in a media room. So we all sat down on some nice couches and watched a sizzle reel for about 5 minutes, remembering David's greatest works and getting some of his references into modern media and how much of an icon he is, which he really is, right?
Right.
This media room houses his Emmys, which are like 24.
Oh,
wow. It's so insane to be like, here we go. And well, there is 24 Emmys. Just like, and that speaks volumes that a magic variety show can attain notoriety in its field, and well deserved. He worked his butt off on those shows. You know how much work goes into editing a TikTok. Imagine doing it for national television, an hour worth of solid magic.
Yeah. Yeah. Meaningful magic. Beautiful, meaningful, heartfelt magic.
Oh, man.
So you're in this media room. You then press on into a...
So after the media room, we go to a photo op, which is through a few stage illusions. Like, I don't know, can we see DC floating me here?
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, barely. But that's a generic photo op that we take, and I think it gives a couple of things for the tour to get situated here. And we're doing this like the death saw is in this room, that big spiral
real
death
one.
saw.
Nice.
So big. The floating couch illusion is in this room, and this room is also a bit under construction. They're building an elevator, and accordingly, it's always under construction. This place does not rest on its laurels. They're always doing something there. So yeah, we do here's the best stuff. Okay, we do the photo op, and we go through, and David begins his presentation on how he got started in magic. He said he saw a pitchman at Macy's, and he had the gentleman's name, and he had the trick this gentleman was doing as a little board where things appeared and vanished on top of the board. And it was really nice to hear about the first trick that he saw and what he thought of the guy that did it and how he purchased the trick from this pitchman. And this is happening like under a spotlight on the pitch counter, and there's music going on. And then he says this. He says, and then I discovered Tannen's Magic Shop. And then the lights come up, and you are in Tannen's, which, let me flip around Trick Supply here a little bit and give you an idea. We're in the magic shop here. We can look at what a magic shop looks like. So imagine, elegant magic from Tannen's in the mid-70s, expertly recreated with sound, music, expert lighting, and David Copperfield talking about his comeuppance through Tannen's and some of the magicians that he met in that space.
Now, Doug, I'm curious, how much is Tannen's changed over the years. Like I visited it every time I go to New York.
Yeah.
And it looks, it does seem to change every now and again. Like
I asked David, he had an emblem on the ground, and I was like, "Is that from the original Tannins?" He said, "No, we had to reproduce this because," and then he explained that the Tannins now is in a totally different location than the one that he used to go to. So this store has very much changed, but I think the current owner has kind of like captured the essence that it had back in the day that maybe it had lost for a couple decades with other owners. So I think if you go to Tannins now, you'd be pretty happy to be there and, in that environment.
It's great.
I'll tell you, you'd be real happy to be in David Copperfield's version of Tannins. It's just breathtaking.
Man, that is the way to sell magic effects, is to have the theater lighting go down, the spotlight on, music starting to play in the background. That he's got
a set of tarbells on the counter, and he picks up tarbell 7 and flips to the page where his first effect was published at the age of 16. Geez. He's in tarbell number 7. Harry Lorraine put the Minto pen in there, and David had a box with that item. I don't know, it's a real trick, but he goes, "That's my trick." From tarbell.
Wow.
What is a 16 David Copperfield like? Like, because when did he start getting aired on TV, Doug? Was that in his early 20s?
Wow, he had some great stories about that too. He used to work with Doug Henning in his early days, mentoring him, and Doug Henning actually cast him aside, insinuating that he was too big to do the work that needed to be done, the illusions and the trapdoors and things of this nature.
Physically too big.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris later tells the story of when David buys Doug Henning's some of Doug Henning's collection, and he said right off the truck, David got the Metamorphosis out and got inside it and climbed out of the trap door and went, "Fuck you, Doug Henning." Oh, it's so funny. But Doug was like what, 5'3" or something. So you get a David who's 6 foot, and Doug Henning's a small dude. So I can understand that,
Yeah, I remember Dave being about my height. So, and I don't imagine he's shrunk all too much given his age. I know that does
Plus,
happen.
he's got the padding. He projects like 6 inches bigger than he actually is.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. So, this is a legitimate thing where. So the theory is, for those listening, that he's how old's Copperfield now? 60s, I think, or possibly even 70s.
Oh, come on, I'm 55. He's got to be pushing 70, maybe.
There you go. So
he doesn't look like it. He looks like he looks better than me.
He looks like a billionaire. That's what it is.
That's hard to do. Yeah.
Basically, your physicality and testosterone that leaves your body, like you don't have a libido type physique forever. Okay. So
68 is how old he is.
68. So we're pushing 70. And I was told this a long time ago that he actually wears a bodysuit and then puts on his shirts and so forth. And
that'd be a process. I can't imagine. The hair. The hair is probably not his. I mean, it's his, but
there's some work going on for sure. I wonder if, because I've heard about the bodysuit as well, and I've not seen it with my own eyes, but I've heard people talk about how there are certain photos out there that actually he does look square, like because of the padding or whatever. But I wonder if he actually does that also because in some of his illusions, he has to be wearing some kind of harnesses and stuff. So by always having that look to him, it never changes when he's doing different effects. I wonder
like doing Chun Ling Su, but he's David Copperfield.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what it has to do with.
Yeah.
Well, Chun Ling Su was a big feature of this tour, as were all the great magicians, every single one of them.
Wait, you telling me he has the fishbowl in the warehouse?
Does he have the exact fishbowl? I mean, you can only show so many props. Like as we go,
Yeah.
like let's say we get done with the Tannen's room, and now we're going to begin our walk through the history of magic. And this room might have actually scratch that. After Tannen's, you walk through. I guess it's like the ultimate magic shop where he has every single prop you can freaking imagine, displayed in row after row after row, elegantly lit, and all the Thayer stuff, all the Mechamay stuff, all the Abbott stuff, and it's just row after row after row. That's what happens after the Tannen shop, because if you think that was a cool shop, look at this one. You want a ball and vase? Which one of the 50 would you like to look at?
Yeah. Like, I got a gig on the weekend, DC. Do you mind if I borrow bloody Di Vernon's cups and balls?
And he performs a couple of the pieces too. As you come into this room, he had like just a little weird wooden things that aren't really even super foolers, but obviously that are special to him. And I'm not even sure what I saw, but it was cool, and so he's given a demonstration of some of these items as well. I asked him if he rotates the items. He goes, yeah, I change it up all the time.
Did you see
the way? I'm just talking to David Copperfield, like, hey, Dave, you do that? Yeah, do that.
Yeah, wow. Did you get to see a performance of the orange tree? I've heard he has an orange tree illusion.
Yeah, so that's that wraps up the tour basically.
Well, let's save that. Let's not jump ahead. Yeah, I was going to ask myself because there's so I have the Copperfield History of Magic book, which is basically examples of the things he has in his museum. And I read this only a few months ago and saw so many beautiful things. So like, can we talk about some of the things that you saw as far as histories related? Because what I'm most interested in is the one that we spoke about a few weeks ago, where we're talking about the human index. Was that jacket on display?
That was not mentioned. Is that a like a sideshow act, like a vaudeville act where he produced any paper at will, or are you talking more about Jimmy Grippo?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Arthur Lloyd one that we spoke about a few weeks ago, where he would say something to the effect of, say that. So just a quick brief history on this. This particular person would have a cloak, a jacket, if you will. I've kind of shown here, and they would say, "Name any card," and they go 4 hearts. He's like, "No, any card," and he's like, "All right, Amex," and he goes, "Boom," and pulls out an Amex.
Wow.
So. Yeah, and so he was this human index and was able to produce like almost anything. And then what happened was, after he'd passed, Copperfield purchased it, and what had happened was they emptied out all the pockets, dry cleaned it, and then sent it to him because they said it was kind of dirty and dusty. We didn't want to do that, but the thing is, by doing that, all the secrets that lied within.
Whoops.
Yeah, and so that secret is now lost to time. Yeah, and I just thought, imagine like seeing that. That would have been such.
I'll reminisce a bit about kind of the way it went through, because you can. How much can you show in really 2 hours, right? You got to like, and when you show things, it starts with people that influenced David, like Marvin Roy, Mr. Electric, who did an act with all electricity. He's got his 5,000 watt light bulb there. Channing Pollock is shown. Mark Wilson. Di Vernon has a section. Cardini has a section. These are kind of more modern masters that David would have been influenced by as a aspiring artist.
Did he celebrate any female magicians like Adelaide Herman?
The very last thing we went through is a new exhibit that focuses on women in magic. The newest area is it's a research area where there's just volumes and volumes of these folders. Like I looked in one and there's 4 volumes of Kalang, the magician. Magazine articles, newspaper clippings, and things like that. And just think, so if you want to research any magician, that's there. And then as you walk through that, you go into the women in magic section. This will give you an idea of how David is. They couldn't get one of the TVs to turn on. He calls the guy at home at 1 a.m. to ask this dude where his remote is. You know, you can imagine being on David's workforce, the phone's going to ring at 1 a.m. sometimes, I guess.
Wow.
They didn't find the remote, and he was obviously displeased. I don't think he likes it when things don't go well. So,
well, you don't get to where he is without this element of perfection,
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to respect the hustle.
Yeah. Prior to that, he did speak of other women in magic. I was surprised to hear that Adelaide Herman from the Herman family, who was really one of, like our forefathers, was one of the more successful acts from that lineage. Adelaide Herman, female magician. And then you see how that act actually got passed down, and you get to see this whole lineage from Alexander Herman to Keller. And Keller passed it to Thurston, and Thurston passed it to Dante. And I guess some other guys might have got it then. But fascinating how really the great magicians were all built upon kind of Alexander. They started with what he was doing and just made it bigger and bigger and bigger. And when Keller passed the mantle to Thurston, it was a financial transaction. It wasn't a mentor telling someone you're great and you deserve no, it was Thurston shelling out the bucks to get Keller's okay so that his tour would be a success.
Wow.
And so on.
Did they talk much about expert at the card table and their theories on who possibly, Erdnase might be?
They did not. The only really close-up focus was given to Di Vernon. I did ask if Marlowe had a section, and Chris talked a bit about Marlowe. Marlowe, I guess, did not have a section, but close-up magic was not the forte of this evening's experience. And, I don't think it's David's passion as much, so probably that's why, he's a stage guy. He does great close-up, but
you're saying there's no Shin Lim exhibit in there yet?
If there was, that would have been when I took a nap during the tour. Got a few Z's, rested my eyes for a minute.
I was going to ask if there was anything of Max Malini's in there, but he was sort of notorious for arriving at events with nothing on him and just improving awesomeness.
But I'm sure there is. I'm confident that there's something from everyone of notoriety in this room. I can't imagine that anyone's left out. If anything's left out, it's just the amount of time that he can tell stories on the tour.
Yeah. The Magic Buzz is asking, what about the moon? Did he have the moon in his way?
Man, I probably would not have got a favorable glance if I'd asked that question. But
that's funny.
Oh, so much.
So Chunling Su, was his gun actually there that was used for his?
Sure was.
Yeah,
sure was.
Is it a rifle? Is it a handheld thing?
An old rifle.
Rifle.
Musket kind of deal.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, I imagine and all the people we just mentioned, he showcased props from, the original sawing in half was there. The original floating lady was there, and he showed the rig and explained about how it's probably not what you think it is. And we got.
Yeah. I imagine that he probably has the largest collection of Houdini's stuff.
So that's kind of where this tour just keeps getting like more and more intense after you leave we see David's influences in history, and then we see the history of magic from, like I just said, Herman and Thurston, and then we go into the granddaddies, which are Houdini and Houdin, and this area is huge, and really Houdin gets the lion's share of the time in this space. We get to see his clocks that have no gears on them. They're like encased in glass. The hands move, and he was making these in the 1800s. A couple of the pieces of the automatons. Automatons.
Yeah.
Yep.
He displayed one where a bird was singing and the woman was telling the bird it was the wrong song, and the bird corrected the song. Very ornate. We got to price, and I asked, well, how much is something like this worth? Oh, there's really no way to tell, but probably in the neighborhood of $15 to $20 million. It's a wind-up toy.
Holy crap.
Not just a wind-up toy.
So apparently
Wow.
these items are more desirable outside of the magic community as well. So there's a large collector base of, wealthy individuals who will pay big prices for these.
And how many do you reckon he had of those?
Oh,
Like more than
they
a dozen,
highlighted
or-
several. Just to give you an example, there was 6 different clocks that Chris gave the lineage of how Houdan improved them. And after he was done telling that, you look to the wall and there's 30 more clocks just there,
Wow.
So you can imagine how many automatons there are. What's the word? Whatever that is.
Automatons?
Automatons.
Yeah.
A lot.
Okay,
Including the orange tree, really, because that's the ultimate.
Well, yeah. So did you see the orange tree? Because I would be brought to tears if I saw it.
Yeah. So a couple of performances happened. I mentioned that earlier. Like, I get to pick a card from David earlier. A ring was borrowed earlier. The ring vanished. I had the card in my pocket. He did 3 revelations. My card was found with a card star. The stars where the cards appear on the point of the cards. He just goes like this to the stage where there's 3 card stars and all of them explode. And there's 30 of my cards staring at me suddenly.
Ooh.
Old school magic instantly brought to life unexpectedly. It was great. Wow. The first ring reveal was not the orange bush. He vanished the ring a second time, and this thing just grows. If you've seen the movie The Illusionist, it looks just like that in real life. And if you haven't seen the movie The Illusionist, you're doing it wrong. That's a good one with Edward Norton. This thing he takes some dirt, drops the dirt in the pot, puts some seeds in, and an orange bush blossoms. The oranges can be plucked and given to the audience. At the crescendo of the orange bush, 2 birds fly up like little hummingbirds. A handkerchief opens between the birds, and dangling from the middle of them is the finger ring that the lady had, loaned earlier.
I got to be honest. I always thought that the explanation of that trick was an exaggeration, but it's real, isn't it?
It looks like real magic.
Damn.
It was the second effect of that nature that he had performed. There was a rose bush earlier that he also performed in that same set I was talking about, and the lady gets the roses as well. So Holly England's walking out of there with roses that David produced from a blooming rose bush also.
Unreal.
That's crazy. I mean, surely it's only a matter of time until Copperfield decides that that's just going to be his main gig now. Doing the
I wonder how
museum
much
show.
time he just hangs out in there, and enjoys life. All of the exhibits have video elements. So when he's talking about Houdini, you see video of Houdini. When he's talking about Cardini, you see Cardini and Di Vernon. And these are sometimes animated, like he'll say, and then there was Houdini, and he'll point to this thing and a curtain just comes off the television on its own. He had Jackson write down a name. Jackson wrote down a name earlier on the tour, and then he brought one of Houdini's talking head illusions to life. So you would get to see how this spirit manifested, and the talking head spoke the name that Jackson had written down earlier.
Damn. Imagine that at a corporate gig. You've just got this
Pepper's
bodiless
ghost
head,
thing.
and it can reveal the name.
It looked like a head on a sword, one of those deals, but the head just
Wow.
kind of manifested itself.
Damn.
One of the cool ones I liked was he had a Mark Wilson display from the World's Fair in like the 80s or the 70s. And it was just 2 hands. And it looked like they were mechanical hands on their own in this metal stage. It's like, watch the magic hands, magic of the future. And these hands just instantly animated and did a couple magic tricks and then went back to robotic. It was very fooling for me. There had to be hands in there, but I'm not sure how. Oh, excuse me. Just unexpected things like that. He's talking about Mark Wilson. And he's like, oh, and then I got this thing. Whoa.
Unreal.
Oh, so let me continue because I left out the best part. Kind of. I mean, it's all the best part. After you go through the Houdin and Houdini exhibits, the library. So you get to see the reproduction of the Houdini library. That's one of the photo ops. Maybe I can bring that up here. So they recreated Houdini's library, and you get a chance to take a picture standing in front of it.
Wow.
And then this library here, yes. So if you've seen the photo of Houdini in his library, that image is faithfully recreated in this room. And then from there, you go into Copperfield's main library. I asked Chris how many books were in there, and he said over 10,000.
That's almost as big as your library, Doug.
Not even close. I have databased the library that had 5,000 titles in it. This room was about 4 times that size.
Holy crap.
I asked Chris, I said, 10,000? I said, is there that many magic books? He said, there's over 100,000. There's over 100,000 unique magic titles. I've heard that we have more educational titles than just about any other, certainly art, like, music or painting. The magic references are the biggest. I had no idea it was that many, 100,000 titles.
One thing I always say proudly is, when performing for corporates and so forth, and they might freak out as to what you charge or whatever else. And I explain to them that I probably spent more money on my magic education than you did being a lawyer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth in that, man. Like for me, the past 17 years, with it being 2025 now, the investment I put in myself every single year to learn magic. Yeah, I wake up.
And still, right? It doesn't stop being expensive either. It stays expensive.
No, that's right.
Yeah,
I just bought, my registration to Magic Life, and then I'm going to buy flights, and I just spent $400 on something on the Magic marketplace, and I was like, yeah, what we do. Oh, we got another photo.
Oh, that's an aerial shot.
So once you go through the history of magic there, and like in that bookcase is the discovery of witchcraft at the bottom, all the posters. This is just kind of just one of the very big rooms, one of the few chances you get to take a picture. I saw Tim asking if he was cool with photos. There's a few times, and that's one of them where he says, all right, if you want a picture, now's your chance. And that just gives you a small taste. That's one of 9 experiences, that one cavernous room.
Wow.
Alex Lamb made a funny comment saying that there was no Rocky Raccoon exhibit, and I think that would be hilarious.
Got a couple Rockies there.
If you ever go to visit Dave Williamson's farm, and he's like, "Here's my museum," and he's got all these different Rockies.
Yeah,
that would be hilarious. I know that he's got a couple of weird ones, like 2-headed Rockies and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I remember, not more than 5 years ago, he was like, "If you ever find one, buy it. Just buy it. I'll pay it later. Like, just whenever you find one." And I think now that they're recreating them in a pretty okay standard, but if anyone was at Magic Live, there's a hilarious. I saw them filming this, and it's now on socials, where Weber was handing Williamson Rockies, and he was looking at them and like smelling them like they were a cigar. Like, he'd look at them, check them out, smell the tail, and be like, throw them, like, no good. He gets another one. He was just checking them, being like, no good, and throwing them away. Like, it was so ridiculous. But the history is such an important thing, and that library, I wonder how much of it is just not to be touched. Like, I wonder if he actually employs folks who do nothing but study books and report to him some cool stuff.
They have 3 researchers, is what Chris called them, on,
full time.
When we were going through the research room, I said, well, how many people work here? He goes, 3 people. Wow. So all the books are behind glass. God, it's so beautiful. But in that research room, that's extra beyond the library. So once you leave the library, then you go into this room, there are folders. So it's like these things, right? one
All
after
right.
the other after the other. You know, it's like clang, clang, clang. So let me see what clang did in 1700. You know, okay, got it. You know, and it's just wall after wall after bookcase, just filled with these things.
Unreal.
And that's beyond like the newspaper room you said with all David's references and so on. Yeah.
You know, it really spins me out. Like when you hear stories like, you know, most recently with Penn and Teller coming to visit in Australia and seeing some of the effects they did in their show, which was totally amazing, only for them to be like, oh yeah, that's like a Burglass idea. We just changed this one bit about it. And you're like, God, it's so hard getting your hands on this knowledge, so hard getting your hands on these books, you know? It's
I asked Chris, I said, where's the right stuff? Which was his first book. He couldn't point it out. He goes, man, I don't even have a copy of that one. He goes, if it's here, it's probably over here. I was like, what? You don't have your own book in this library? Y'all know that book, The Right Stuff?
No, I haven't heard of it.
That was Chris Kenner's first book, authored by John Mendoza in I think the late 80s.
I think I've only got Out of Control signed, actually. Which I bought in Vegas.
Stuff signed, so
wow, look at you, bud.
It's not signed, but it will be. Got Kenner's cell phone now.
Yeah, true. Bloody hell.
I figured bucket list items. I want to do Thanksgiving with Matt King, and I want to be at Chris Kenner's Magic Live party. So I'm a step closer to both of those things.
Oh, he doesn't do Magic Live parties no more.
But only for cool people. Maybe you don't know about it.
Oh, that's probably why.
Oh.
No, he probably doesn't. He's probably like, screw these nerds. Too much rigmarole. I have daughters now that are teenagers. Don't need those geeks over here.
I'm sure you could convince Chris Kenner to do his own Chris Kenner party. Screw it. We'll just have our own. We'll have it. We'll just make it the official Doug Con Magic Live party.
Look, there'll be an abundance of penthouse parties to, if you know the right people, you will be dragged along to them.
No shortage of parties for Magic Live.
Yeah.
The one I want to go to is the Trick Supply After Dark with Doug Con.
Big time.
Party. That's the main one. Let's just make that the main who's who of magic after party.
I wonder what it's like to party with Doug Con. Does Doug Con party, or is he more of a let's have a cup of tea and talk magic?
Dude,
when it's party time, I throw down.
Just to be clear, when it's party time, I throw down Doug Con.
No, I do. And because I'm older and it hurts more, I don't party that much, but I still go for sure.
Yeah. Like Doug has messaged into our group chat saying, "Hey boys, I'm partying this weekend, so I know I'm not going to be on the pod next week."
Oh yeah, that's how it is for me. You got to plan the next day or two off.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I could do it day after day, but that's not me anymore.
Well, yeah, I feel you, man. Because even when I was at Magic Live, my drinking game was pretty minimal. I did go there a week early and did a lot of my drinking prior. With friends that I'd made along the way. But yeah, when the actual convention was going down, and it's also just the laborious task of having to wait in line at the Alligator Bar to get a drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Generally, I'll do just the last day for the drinking. If I'm going to drink at a convention, F that.
That's clever. Yeah. And remember to take your pre-workout with you. As
we talked
about in many episodes.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for this year. Finally, 7 years later, I make a return.
Magic Live. That's going to be great. We'll talk about the logistics of that off air, but like whether or not we go there early or late or whatever. The other thing I was gonna do, which when I visited Vegas, that I didn't get around to, unfortunately, just because, when you have opportunities of people going like, we're going to go do this thing, we want you to come with, you've got to say, yes, sir. There is a punk rock museum in Vegas that I really want to go to. And they actually have punk rock royalty, if you will, giving the tour. And I would love to be a part of that. And you can literally go to this punk rock museum and they have guitars from people like Fat Mike of NoFX and a bunch of others. You can just grab the guitar off the wall, have a little twang, put it back on the wall again. And I think that would be really cool to experience. And then outside of that, like, I don't know if it's worth seeing the Grand Canyon, but if I was we're going to do it in a chopper because I don't want to spend half a day on a bus. And thirdly is there is a supercar experience you can have. It costs a lot of money. It's about $4,000 or something, but you spend the entire day driving millions of dollars worth of supercars. And
See
those
that?
things are-
Yeah, that's a Nick K adventure.
That's a Nick K adventure, most definitely. I mean,
Does
like
the helicopter? Because I've been to the Grand Canyon. Does the helicopter land somewhere so you can actually physically get out and breathe the air and look at?
good question. That's a good question, and all I know is that I was told to make sure you do the chopper and don't ride the bus. It's going to take you half a day. Like,
Right.
Just
I
driving.
wouldn't. Yeah. Look, I will say when I went and looked at it, we drove. So we drove out there because we had a car and stuff. And
How many hours was that? How many hours was that in the car?
I do not remember. This is when I was
It's about
21,
2.5, 3
22.
hours. I've looked at the mileage. Yeah, I was excited to go see it, like as one of the things, and I'm like, I might be bumped back a little bit just because, I don't want to drive so much.
That's awful and sad at the same time.
Well, I mean, there's 8,000 things I want to do just here, so it's like,
Yeah.
I did fly
Going-
over it on the way in, so I was like, there it is.
And it's so big, so flying probably does let you see the
It's
entirety of
jaw
it. But
it is like that.
driving into it, just driving to it, and then you standing on the edge of it and just seeing how freaking big it is pretty cool.
Well,
in
next week I
itself.
do get to drive through it. Maybe I think it's on the way here from New Orleans, so I will be flying back to New Orleans to finish the move here. I just got into my apartment Friday, so
Woo!
Congrats.
Oh yeah.
yes, I think I'll be here next week. Although we got to talk about time changes, and then I'm going to miss a week while I'm getting my cats, my wife,
Yeah.
Understandable.
my
Doug,
stuff.
we talked earlier about what are your favorite effects of the week, or that you're looking at, or you found in the shop. Was there? And we put something in our description of this video. Was there something
Let's do a plug then. Yeah,
had
sure.
discovered?
Look,
Yeah.
I was on our newsletter that Wolfgang puts out every week. You can go to Trick Supply, sign up for our newsletter, get the news. And unlike some of the companies, when you get an email from Trick Supply, you get cool stuff that you don't know about because everyone else sends out the same thing. Wolfgang put this thing in here. This is the production deck. This is, I guess, here's the actual thing. And I read the directions for this old school miracle, the production deck. And I said, this sounds too good to be true. So this is a production deck. Let me see if I can put a highlight on myself. It looks very much just like a deck of cards, and some of the cards are real. And if I was to relate this to something, it might be relatable to like a solid deception deck from Paul Harris. But this deck has the ability to produce things from it. Let me see if I can just manifest a matchbox.
Oh, sheesh.
3D manifest. And Josh, if you could just think of a card,
Yeah.
one card inside, what card are you thinking of?
Oh, damn. Four of clubs.
Yeah, it's right next to the 3.
Hey.
All right. So this is just something I put
that's
in
so
there as
fun.
an idea to do it like a follow-up effect for the appearance. I'm going to vanish it now so you can kind of see this thing in action. So this is an actual, just a matchbox. It could be anything about this size. I think it's designed for this object.
No.
Damn.
So this is magnetically locked now. So whatever is in there is locked, and I'm going to show you the appearance. And you might see a little bit of the gimmick this way, but I think this is striking as well. Watch the top of the deck.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Dude.
Maybe that's not the angle, but
Yeah, I
to
did
perform with, but-
insinuate that, and I do think that it was made to produce things like this.
Yeah, because that.
So either from the table or on top of your hand in this kind of fashion.
Yeah, does it question from Alex Lamb, does it rattle when it's loaded?
So you know what I did earlier is put some coins in it. I thought it'd make a nice 4 coin production. You could show this, put it on the table, and something like that will rattle. That's the way you do it, boys, right there. You put this down here,
yeah,
you
that
lift
was
up, and then you
ridiculous.
show the. Don't do that though.
Retake.
Please understand, this is day 1 for me of handling this prop, and in fact, minute 5. Like I've been a very busy magician today.
Yeah. And then
can I
how how big of an is that the thickness of an object that can fit in there?
So you know what I did earlier was I wanted to see if an Altoid 10 would work, and that's about the most it could fit. I was thinking like of doing a card and box style routine. Maybe you're doing some card tricks, and you ask someone if they would want a mint, and the mint box
that's
appears. And then after that surprise, you do the card folding, and now their signed card is inside the matchbox or the mint box.
Yeah.
So it's about that size. I'm not going to expose the inner workings, but if you can imagine cutting out the frame of a court card, and then you have that much space, and it's about, half an inch thick. It's about that far.
You know what I would do with this? I would ask someone to like use a matchbox, light the match, flash paper, produce the deck, do like a whole deck routine, and then just keep doing like, instead of doing a card under box, do a card under matchbox, and then in between that you could do this deck switch for the gimmick. And even like then for me with my style of Magic, I would take the matchbox in the action of handing it to someone, I'd vanish it using my techniques. And then that box would immediately reappear over there, card in the box once again, because you would just drop it. Like I would be so sick. Like there is so much fun.
Anything like this? This is what I'm talking about. We got so many gems in the back room, and if you're on our newsletter, you're going to hear about 5 or 6 of them every week. Wolfgang writes about.
Let's riff on this for a second of things that could go in there. The craziest thing that comes to mind for me, because what really this is what could you produce that shouldn't be able to be concealed, like just in a deck? What if, you're doing Halloween or you want to freak someone out and you put like bloody cockroaches in there or something?
There's an effect in the Paul Harris manuscripts where he describes a vanishing deck idea and he uses slime. He produces a handful of slime in someoo's hand. You could do something horrible like that. Oh, how about bugs?
Just something.
Do the roach appearance.
Yeah, imagine a real roach and it's like it crawls out of their hand. I'm like, that's how I do the trick. Is I have a helper or like whatever. Like that's a weird way to go about it. You wouldn't do it at a corporate gig, but for something just wild.
Yeah, you could probably load something into your hand. If you had the deck, you could probably just do like a tally bottom type setup to dispense something into your hand. And
true, yeah.
Also, like in the description, it says this: you don't have to use it as a visible production. It could be a means to secretly acquire gimmicks. You could have, maybe a nail writer or some other, thing, maybe predictions, extra outs, things like that aren't visibly produced.
It
doesn't rattle his question. And Tim also had a question. It does come in red. I think I gave you the link to the blue one, but we have about 20 of each of these in red, and red and blue. They're also on sale. This is normally like a $40 product. This is $20. So
wow,
what can you get for $20 in Magic these days? Not much. Well,
not much at all.
This is a spring-loaded magnetic production, and I don't think I need to plug it anymore. It's
what I'd shove in there? I put a vibrator in there, which sounds kinky, but it's not. Hear me out. So you put it in there, and you can then use like a momentary switch vibrator to trigger someone in the audience, or do you know what I mean?
Or like, you stick an air tag in there, and you have someone put the deck in their pocket and run around the theater and hide it.
Oh, that's a cool Kreskin idea. Yeah. Like, how he used to do that? He used to like go ahead and hide my paycheck. And if I can't find where you've hidden it in the studio, this gig's for free. He used to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Was it Kreskin?
I was thinking that it could be used as a penetration effect. So if you had a second object palmed and showed an object here, so as this object goes into the deck, the other one could appear on top of the deck, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Be a vehicle to create that effect as well.
Nice.
It'd probably be a better tabled effect than me holding it. You put this on the table and then or even just the folded card production. I don't know if that would be a thing or not, but if you wanted to produce a folded card out of nowhere, that's something as well.
Yeah, or a note. It could be a billet that has predictions on it. Maybe you're doing shuffleboard, and
I really think the best ideas we've had is produce something that's live, you know.
That's going to be the freakiest thing for people,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Like you do Haunted Deck, and then like, have you seen on Wizard Wars, they did Haunted Deck where they poured all these worms around it or something, and it was the worms apparently that were moving the deck to find the card.
That was
what
good.
What if you just did Haunted Deck and like, how do you do it? And like, worms. And like, what do you mean? Oh, let me show you. And then you like pour them all out on their hand. That's the next morning show gig that I get, like TV show snippet. You got to do something just wild like that, because that deck will do it. I love it. So many ideas. Yeah, Tim's saying tons of ideas. Well,
You know,
I'm sold.
cool? A stamp. And you can stamp another card. Like that.
We're going to need some more info, Nick.
Stamp.
All right. I'm taking this home. I'm going to figure out, like, this production is so striking. I really think it'd make a good social media moment too. You know, it's so clean.
The other thing too, Doug, you know how you're holding it on your hand and going down like this? What if you're actually holding two cards? You're actually holding so that when you go down and up, you've still got one card left, but now the thing's gone that was on top of.
What if you had it so that you have like glass tabletop and a card, something underneath, and then in the action of like pushing it through the deck, falls through?
Oh, how about this?
Yeah,
okay, Doug. Oh my god.
Let's go.
Okay, so you've got two. So you got two cards, right? How about this? One sec. So you got two cards, but you've got, let's say it's a coin for whatever sake.
Yeah.
The second card that's being hidden, because it's a double, on the face of it is the drawing of the coin.
Ah, so there's a coin
so now
here.
And so now when the coin vanishes and you lift up the deck, now you can see the picture of the coin.
Yeah, it's actually a sweet coin vanish.
Or the coin, or it could be written, or it could be embedded into the back of that blue card that's left in your hand. Maybe that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, so it's like it's there, and then the coin appears.
And
here.
now, or it could be now embedded in the back design. Maybe
there's actually some draft decks that have coins printed on them too that you could, put to work for something like that. So it'd be like this, and then there's the image of a coin here, huh? And then it's on there.
Yeah.
You guys know the stealing pips routine? How you move the pips around?
I know a little something about that.
Well, Doug Collins' pip, is it called the pip trip? Is that Doug Collins' version?
Yeah. So what if you were moving all the pips around, and then on the final load, you can actually like produce the pips and dump them out? Or if it was with love hearts, you could like produce love heart candy, or just some sort of physical entity where they all move.
You could have confetti there and just blah.
This is great. Look, we've been riffing for a while on this.
So, you know what? I messaged you earlier. I put this thing off on a whim, and I was like so enthusiastic about the item. I was like, Josh, put this one in our link today.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you're finding these gems, because how come people don't know about this effect? Like,
throwing it out there. Throwing it out there that maybe you find 3 cool bits that are unsung heroes, and we have an on the air spitball session coming up with as many ideas as we can with a gimmick. I reckon that would be really fun. Just creatively, it would be so fun for me. And
100%.
So listeners, if you think that would be a cool idea to have an online sort of create,
we've got a warehouse full of wonders ready to be refined.
Yeah. And at least that way, should you purchase it from tricksupply.com, that you would actually then have a bunch of original ideas for listening to the podcast. So I think that's a great value add.
Yeah.
Well, that's another good one. The rubber band production. Move into rubber bands with cards.
Yeah. Yeah,
Magic
totally.
Buzz.
Boom. I
got a couple to bring home tonight. What do I got? I got this one, which I never heard of, but look at this name. Angelo Carbone. It's a 9-sided die. So it's got elements of the surprising dots and built into a 3-dimensional die. Have you guys heard of this thing?
No.
A 9-sided die. Angelo Carbone, one of our great creators of the modern times. That's an old gem from him. And then I've also taken home, where's the boomer ropes? I don't know what this is, but it looked interesting to me, from Chastain Criswell. I'm assuming it's a form of the boomerang illusion, where you apparently stretch the sizes of the ropes using an optical illusion, but I don't know. I'm just guessing. Maybe I'll know next time we talk. But this is what I do. They give me inventory to pick for the mail order, and when I'm picking one thing, I'm like, I'll take this home.
I'm really stuck on this box now. You could use it as a ring production too. Like you draw a ring on the back of a card and then you go like that, and now it turns into a real ring and you move into your next stuff. Or maybe that's how you help someone propose. Maybe that's the ring production.
Oh, bro, you could even load stuff into this. Like you could treat that gimmick as a thing to impossible location so that you could produce it afterwards just by rubbing the card. And yeah.
You could probably do it in someone else's hand too. So you'd say, here, hold this deck. And then all you got to do is move forward and lift up, and that thing is there.
Yeah.
You know? And if you do it with a few cards underneath, like we're talking about, so it's not like they're just holding one, it's a little more.
You know, it would be really cool if you took the card, you split it ever so slightly and put just the thinnest, maybe like even just like a circle of like thread or some sort of wool, and just put a little circle like that, and then you seal it up again. Do like a whole ambitious card type thing where maybe you take the card, give it like a strike vanish into the card, show it's gone, and then they can like put it on their hand, and then with the deck like reproduce it by putting like a double on top. You know what I mean? Like there is so much fun to be had with this.
So much fun. This is.
All right.
This is just the
beginning. I'm talking about the production box now.
Yeah. So the link to that effect is wherever you're listening to this right now, just so we're clear. So you can go and buy a bunch of them.
Supply. You can ask 100%. Me the link. I'll tell you. Hit me up in the DMs.
Yeah, that's right. Look,
you can get me off the big screen now. I feel like it's too big. Too regular.
Well, I look forward to seeing, more of those gems, because they're the things that, we're so focused on the latest thing that just came out at.
It's legitimate why I'm here. This is the reason I wanted to work with Trick Supply, is to, get into the stuff. I can get all the new tricks anywhere.
That's true.
And I'm not interested in those. We have them. It's great. We got, we have Tobias's liquid thing. We got all that cool stuff.
I think I speak for all of us by saying, if somebody said, would you like to work in a bricks and mortar store? I don't think any one of us would be like, nah. Like, you'd be like, you want to come and work 9 to 5, earn a wage, and just play with Magic all day and sell it? Have
free content at your fingertips.
Oh, are you kidding me?
As they say, be careful what you wish for. And if you intend to make a living doing this job, you probably should bring some skill sets that benefit the owner beyond, just being able to rummage around their magic. Warehouse.
Some sales technique will have you go a long way.
Now, firmly believe that working in a magic shop is one of the most important things a young or novice magician can do. You learn the ropes, you learn all the props and what's good and bad, and then you learn how to interact with people that come into the store and demonstrate the things. So, you should be lucky enough to get a chance to work in a magic shop. You absolutely should.
I think that's all we have time for, folks. Stay tuned for, we have a guest on next week. We'll announce him closer to the episode, but this is great. We look forward to seeing more reviews, and thank you for sharing that beautiful story of inside the museum. Only a small percentage of magicians are fortunate enough to have gone in there. And Doug, what's the last word of the day, my friend?
Yeah, it's for me this. Manifest, set those goals, see your future, put yourself in the vision, and you'll be surprised at what might happen. You could end up in the desert at midnight with David Copperfield.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.